The Period Panel is sponsored by Active Iron. Use the code HERSPORT30 on their website www.activeiron.com to get 30% off.
So today on the Period Panel we have Claire from Homeless Period Ireland, and we are going to have a little bit of a chat. I think the best thing is to first give people a quick overview of what exactly that you do.
Okay, so Homeless Period Ireland is a volunteer initiative. It's run entirely voluntarily, so it's myself and a team of volunteer drivers, and basically what we do is collect and distribute period products to women in need, and that can be women in direct provision, although that's changing, and that could be women in homeless situations and domestic abuse refugees, all manner of places really. But then also what I do as well with the platform that I have is to try and just really help break down stigma and shame, which sadly still is associated with periods. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Tell us how you got involved with it in the first place.
I watched a film. I watched a film called I, Daniel Blake, and it's set in the UK, and it's based around people who are living on welfare. And in one scene, there was a single mom, and she was caught shoplifting. And when she opened up her bag, inside was a packet of pads or tampons. And it was just something I hadn't thought about before. So I kind of had a Google, and I realised, that this actually was an issue, and it was an issue known as period poverty. Just became a volunteer driver myself, and then the girl who'd set up Homeless Period Dublin could no longer do it, so I took it over and just expanded it from there really. So it's coming into its 5th year now, I think. Lost sense of time with our last year, which has just disappeared. So coming into around our 5th year this year.
And tell us about the team of volunteers that you have. So obviously, if you've managed to bring it from Dublin to, Homeless Period Ireland, it's an expansion that's happened, and you're obviously supported by a great team.
This is actually, it's a very small team of us. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, which is HPI HQ, but it's really phenomenal. Like the support it gets, Niamh, is just brilliant. So often people will just send me messages and say they'd like to volunteer, and kind of, I suppose, because I've built up such a network, if I need a donation done in Cork, I'll have a contact in Cork and I can ring them and go, look, can you do me a favour? So really, it's very much a kindness-based initiative, and people who are volunteering are just hugely supportive, and I suppose have seen the need themselves for the product, so are really keen to help out. So it's just really done on a kindness base.
Mm-hmm. In relation to the stigma, like that's obviously something that we cover a bit on Her Sport, and we want to open the conversation in relation to, periods is something that, all women at some point in their life will have. So talk to us a little bit about what you've experienced with that.
What I kind of see is that there is still kind of awkwardness around conversations. People, we are all still, at that stage where we will kind of hide the tampon up our sleeve, or I've got my period, and look, we don't have to shout and scream about them, but I think if you are in a situation where you've got, bad period pain, or, that you can tell someone, that you don't hide it. People often feel that they have to say they have a headache, or leave work early, say they feel sick for another reason over saying that they have their period. So I think all these conversations are just really important that we have. And again, just leading it into sport, often girls drop out of sport at kind of puberty age because they become conscious of it. So I think, this, for me, I think what's really important is there's just an absolute lack of period education in this country, and sex education, let's be honest. But I think, we really need to have conversations about periods, and particularly around, and particularly for girls who are partaking in all kinds of sport as well. It's hugely important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Even like when I think back of, say, the conversation around periods at school, it's very much kind of the scientific side of it, and like this is what's going to happen, but not necessarily the day-to-day how to deal with it kind of situation. And depending on the school or whatever, you might come across the conversation a couple of times in your whole education cycle, we'll say. But the openness and kind of the reality of what having your period means, or some of the kind of day-to-day challenges that you might face, the open conversation's not really there, and I know it can be an awkward topic for maybe people that have just got their period, but it's for the kind of educators to make them feel comfortable about having it, and understanding that it's completely normal, and everybody's going to have it at some point. In relation to kind of products being made accessible, I know we saw just towards the end of 2020 that Scotland made the first move towards making period products free. And in January of 2021, Ireland are proposing a bill to provide free tampons, sanitary towels, reusable products in school bathrooms, educational institutions, and public service bodies. Can you tell us a bit more about that? I know obviously your ear to the ground is good in relation to this topic, and like, are we going to see a change, and what could this mean if it does go through?
Well, in 2019, the Women's Caucus got together a cross-party motion, which I think was the first time this was done cross-party, and the motion in favour of period poverty passed in the Dáil. So that was 2019. So it was pretty quiet then between now and then. Obviously, Scotland happened, New Zealand also happened. So then, our bill got put in the Seanad in January. So look, I am confident something will happen. It is in our programme for government, and there has been a lot of talk around it. So I really, really hope it's actioned this year. I know there are a lot more, there's a lot of stuff going on in our country at the moment, obviously with COVID and everything, and it's not seen as a priority issue. But I think what we have to remember in all of this, period poverty kind of sometimes with its label, people just think of it as periods, but actually if you are experiencing period poverty, it's a facet of poverty, right? So that's what people need to focus on, I think, is the whole bigger issue of poverty, and sadly that's going to impact a lot of people at the moment with COVID and job losses and all of that kind of thing. Like I know myself, like I was speaking to someone in a food bank yesterday, and the need for all manner of hygiene products is very big. The demand is big at the moment. So I think, look, it just needs to be actioned this year and done. And I think initially it is going to be in educational settings, which is great, but I think we need to go a bit bigger, and I think there just should be universal free access for everyone who needs them.
Yeah, we did released a video a couple of months back talking about the additional kind of costs that women have, and that we just completely take as normal. And then when you actually kind of step back and you go, okay, well, I have to pay for period products, I have to pay for this, I have to pay for that, and you kind of realize all the kind of additional costs that, particularly when it's something that is related to your period, which is not something that you can control. You're kind of wondering, like, how come we are actually paying for this? Because it's something that our women didn't decide that they wanted them,
And I mean, it can just be hugely frustrating, I find, with a lot of these conversations around period products and providing products. And, at the end of the day, it's a normal bodily function, and they should just be in toilets as needed, with soap and with toilet tissue. I mean, it's as you say, it's not by choice, it's not a luxury. So I can get really, really frustrated when there's lots of talk about, we are going to provide period products, but we're going to do a survey first, or we are going to provide period products, but we're going to pilot it. I find that really actually find it slightly, I think it's pretty insulting to people.
Well, in relation to a survey, I mean, what are you going to do? Survey people and ask them how many of you get your periods, because we already know
exactly.
the answer.
I mean, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely ridiculous. So
and kind of wasting resources then as well.
A waste of time and a waste of resources. Like, our periods happen every single month. So while all these conversations are being had, there's women going without, and that's the way I look at it. And so just do it.
Tell me, because I know we obviously spoke a little bit about it before, and you were saying how prevalent it is, but people don't even kind of realise that. And I know there's more people becoming aware of the situation, and people that don't experience it themselves completely take for granted that they can afford period products, and I guess because we don't really talk about the topic in general, and don't really give it much thought than kind of dealing with your own period and kind of moving on, and not thinking about what other people are doing. So tell us how kind of common it is, because I know when you say period poverty, people think about
The obvious
people that may be
categories.
home, people
Yeah.
that we think of people that are homeless or in short-term kind of living situations, but you kind of had said before that it's a lot more prevalent than we realise.
Yeah, because it's like very, there's the obvious categories that you've just mentioned, but there's also, what's forgotten is, it can be the woman who at the end of the month doesn't have, 20 quid or doesn't have 10 quid to go and get pads, or it could be someone who's in a coercive relationship where, they're not in charge of their finances, or it could be a young girl who hasn't, isn't having the conversations at home about periods, and, they're just not being discussed. So it's quite a hidden issue. And I'm often, again, I always bring this back to education, Eve, because also sometimes people would send me thank you messages, and I find that really kind of, I don't, there's not that there's nothing nice about it, but I just find it incredibly sad, where, I might get a message from someone who said, I haven't spoken to my mum about periods, and I'm really grateful to have received them. And, so again, it just kind of comes down to, I think, again, always hark back to education, but yeah.
And in that situation, like, why are young girls maybe not having the conversation with their mom or somebody else in their life?
Who knows? I mean, it's just kind of, again, this is something I've been talking about recently. I mean, often I think, men are kind of easy targets to get blamed sometimes, but I think we all need to remember that, most of us have been taught about our periods by, our mothers, if we're fortunate to have our mum. But yeah, so I think it's just passing down that kind of don't talk about it, get on with it kind of thing. So maybe just people just can't bring it up at home for all manner of reasons.
Yeah. In relation to kind of education, I know you talked a bit about sports clubs and trying to kind of put them in different sports clubs. Tell us a little bit about that.
I work in a football club myself. I'm club registrar with Granada FC in Blackrock, and something that we did is just put products in the toilet, not complicated, nothing fancy. They're just there in the toilets for whoever needs them. Shamrock Rovers. I don't know if you saw that. You probably did actually. The On the Ball group, who were based in Scotland. They've actually just finished up recently. But I think that in the end, I think they got about 120 Premier League clubs involved in LA Galaxy. Just providing products in bathrooms. Shamrock Rovers do it here. Bowes, Derry City, Drogheda United. So again, it's just not making it overcomplicated. I just think it's really, really good for girls, whether they're training or at a match, that they go into the toilet, there they are, and it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm. And I know we had mentioned before in relation to some of the reusable products, such as, period underwear and menstrual cups and stuff. Explain to people why these aren't often suitable in the case of period poverty.
Well, just again, for homeless people who don't have access to their own bathrooms, boiling hot water. Often, women might be in shared accommodation, might be sharing bathrooms, may have suffered sexual trauma, and just might not have the basic education, how to use them, how to learn to use them. We all have the privilege of being able to Google things from the comfort of our own home and look up things in YouTube. Not everyone's in that position. Often, and also, I mean, the obvious hygiene risk as well, with infection. And I mean, it's something I do bang on a lot about, but I really, really do hope that when the government do provide products, that they will be sustainable products, because before COVID, the other big C we were all talking about was climate. So I think it's really, really important that we do start looking at sustainable products, because I don't know if you remember last year with the tampon ad, all the uproar over the tampon ad that was banned here. And
what were your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I didn't like the ad myself, but one of the screaming reasons why I didn't like the ad was because in the middle of it was this plastic applicator, the blue applicator, and it's just not needed. And in this day and age, I have a really particular bugbear with single-use plastic. So for that reason, it annoyed me more than anything else. I mean, for God's sake, all ads around period products are just horrific. Between Blue Blood and, women in their white shorts playing tennis. I mean, there's a few ones that have got better over the years, but in general, they're pretty awful. But for me, the most annoying part about it was the single-use plastic. But I think, look, the government do need to step up there, and I think we have a really, really good opportunity to simultaneously tackle the issue of period poverty and single-use plastic together. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, and even I was thinking, kind of before the call and stuff, that, obviously some people are in the position where they can move towards period underwear and menstrual cups and then find themselves with surplus pads or tampons that they may not really go back to using. So tell us a bit about where people can maybe send, if they want to send you their surplus products that they're not using anymore, because I think that is maybe a way that obviously people that have the means to use the reusable products can actually help people that can't and need kind of support in accessing period products.
Well, under normal circumstances, what people could do would be to bring them to one of our drop-off points, but we do actually ask people not to donate, and we always have, even pre-COVID, not to donate opened boxes of products, just basically for hygiene reasons. So we do only accept, sealed boxes that haven't been opened.
And in relation, the way sometimes tampons are in kind of, I know we're talking plastic, but in their plastic seals and stuff, they're okay. And pads if they're in their plastic.
Absolutely, perfect. Absolutely.
Maybe for after COVID, if people tune into your Instagram and keep up to date with what you're doing, they'll be able to maybe make donations at that point. So do you want to tell us your Instagram handle and where we can find you?
It's at Homeless Period Ireland on Instagram. It's the same on Facebook and also on Twitter. And I have no website. It's all very grassroots and organic. But just keep an eye out, because even if we do something about the poverty stage, I think we'll continue and keep working on the educational side of things.
Yeah, no, I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be, educated around what we're talking about, and I'm sure there's lots of people that will want to help in some capacity. So at least they'll know where you are and how they can support. Do you want to talk a bit about the bandwagoning around poverty?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? Just something I was conscious of around Women's Day was there was a huge amount of conversations around period poverty, and I kind of think these conversations need to continue all year round. I think it's really great. I spoke to you earlier about the fantastic article that Joanna Reardon wrote in the Irish Times a couple of weeks ago about the importance of menstruation cycles in relation to training. And I think there's people like Sinead Brophy, Go With The Flow, doing wonderful work on this. So I think let's not just focus the conversations on this topic on one area. Let's keep these conversations going, because I think they're hugely important.
Yeah, definitely. And in relation to, obviously, a lot of our audience is interested in sport, and we may have people that are in positions of kind of authority within their clubs that might be able to make some changes. So what would your suggestions be for sports clubs to help support this, as you're saying, a hidden issue that, athletes or, whether it's children or adults may not actually be comfortable talking about, but still want to participate in sport?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good time for women's sport at the moment. And I think particularly in Ireland, I know it's finished up recently with the 2020 campaign. I just loved it. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. It's great. And I have a lot of interest from sports clubs. Belvedere Rugby Women's Club have been hugely supportive, and as I mentioned earlier, the football teams. But I think there's so much more visibility now around women's sport, with the little campaigns with the LGFA, and there's so much more visibility that I think we all have an opportunity just to make it all a bit normal. So if you are part of a sports club, just put pads in the toilet. It's not a big deal. It's not a big issue. It doesn't need to be surveyed. It doesn't need to be quantified. It's just a tiny, tiny little gesture. And I think it just makes girls who see this as normal, it's normal. And, we don't want girls dropping out of sport when they reach puberty. I have 2 daughters who are football mad. And I would hate to think that, they gave up sport because they felt awkward or embarrassed or any sort of shame. So I think, I think it's just all down to all of us who are anyway involved in sport. Just put them in the toilets. If you have toilets. So many clubhouses don't have toilets, for girls, but
Yeah, I definitely think small measures like that can really help in some clubs. And like you're saying, it's it just makes it normal. And then hopefully as the years go on, the normality of talking about periods and everything would just...
And that's it. I mean,
we won't even notice it.
We won't even notice it, and that's it. Like, you know, it just gets so overcomplicated, and all it boils down to is people putting pads in toilets or tampons or whatever you want to put in the toilet. But that's all it boils down to.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thing I think that's really annoying. Oh my god, my hair is that is that, you know, with brands like tampons, those silky smooth applicators are designed to make our lives easier, right? But they're not really good for the planet, and I think in this day and age something needs to be done about that big time.
Yeah, no, I think in relation to you know, tampon products and stuff in general, and to both tampons and pads, because a lot of people are familiar with Tampax and with Always, and that's just kind of the brands that are out there and that people are kind of familiar with. But the plastic and the wrapping and everything on there's a lot, you know, and I know obviously in every box, I know this is something that's kind of hard to get arranged, but obviously you have like the instructions and kind of health and safety and stuff, and I don't know, I'd love for there to be a way where we could kind of, not every box needs that, because some people are kind of past, they know what they're going in, and you know, piece of paper, and they just throw it in the bin. But I know obviously it's a difficult thing.
I don't know if you saw it up on my Instagram page, but Flossie and the Beach Cleaners, she's based in South County Dublin and does beach cleans, and a couple of the pictures I've tagged because I just like, oh god, you know, and it's washed up tampons on our shorelines and pads, and you know, I think people don't think before they flush, and also, you know, that these products all contain plastic, and I think that's something that is forgotten about and not thought about.
No, I think like if people are in a position to use some of the reusable products, like obviously that's great, and I know obviously that's what we kind of touched on, where people could obviously help you if they have that kind of surplus.
Yeah, and like, and I'm hugely aware that they are more expensive, and you know, like as I've said to you before, we've discussed menstrual cups before. You know, not everyone is in a position to use them for all manner of reasons. But I think it would be really, really great to see, you know, on our supermarket shelves, just more sustainable products becoming just way more mainstream, because they are seen as more expensive at the moment, and you know, they aren't as they aren't, you know, we're all very familiar with, like as you've said, the Always, the tampons, the known brands, but it would be, I think it would just be fantastic to just see more environmentally friendly products on our shelves.
Yeah, no, I think in relation to kind of period pants or menstrual cups, like the initial cost can seem expensive, and then once you've gone through like 3 or 4 cycles, you're like, whoa, actually this is cost effective. But obviously, as you said, like that's obviously for people that are in a position that they can afford, and you know, to wash them and make sure that everything is done in a kind of clean way. But yeah, no, in relation to like younger girls in sport and that kind of thing, actually I think the period pants are something that's quite cool, because it's something that's so, you know, just easy to kind of do. There's like, you know, menstrual cups for someone that's 11 or 12 or 13 is just, it's too much.
It's not a runner.
I wouldn't promote it. I wouldn't be promoting it, you know, to someone kind of under 18, you know,
no, and I think also
where they're familiar with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think also as well with my daughter's football kit, what we've done at our club is they have navy shorts over white shorts. Yeah, and I mean, listen, it's a little thing, right? But it's also quite a big thing.
No, it's massive.
Yeah. So I think just little changes like that are all hugely important.
Yeah. No, I think the period pants, I know people find wrapping their head around them sometimes a little bit much, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe just actually try it and see what you think. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine, but like it's actually something that's quite easy to bring into your life, and you know, people think they've all these kind of thoughts about what it might be like, but it's actually like, I've tried them, I found them totally fine. I know for, you know, younger people, if they're not really familiar with their cycle yet, or whatever the situation may be, or you know, if someone's kind of 11 or 12 and kind of on the brink of maybe just getting their period, it can be a really good option, because they can wear the period pants without having, like, a couple of days before, and not be worried about, oh, I might get my period today, or whatever the situation. I think it can just, like, and if you don't get your period, grand. If you do, well, sure, you're ready to go. And it doesn't feel any different to normal underwear anyway. So
I'm so jealous of all of this though as well, because like I got my first period, I was thinking about the other day, 35 years ago, so it's a long time ago, and at the time I just remember like getting my mum's my mum giving me like a stay free pad, I think at the time, it was Stay Free was one of the big brands, and it just being massive and the choice just being limited. And also, it was that whole thing of, I went to convent school, and I think we were told, it was the rumour at the time that if you used tampons you'd lose your virginity and all this sort of nonsense. But there was an absolute limit on what was available to you and what you could use. And these just weren't conversations that were had. So I'm actually, when I'm having these conversations with younger women, I'm like, Jesus, this is brilliant, and I actually can't wait to have all these conversations on products with my girls, although they are exposed to a hell of a lot of products in our house. But I think it's really great that you've so much choice. Oh, is it what? Yeah. It's very normal. They're like, Mom, are you talking about periods again? And they don't, they're young, they don't fully know what they are yet, but one is coming into that kind of age soon.
What about, obviously, your husband is exposed to this, but what about kind of educating men? Because I know we said about, in sports still, a lot of coaches are men and obviously haven't gone through it themselves. So how do we kind of help educate men in relation to the topic?
I actually think men are brilliant on this topic, I have to be honest. I think they really, really are. I know at my own club, Granada, it was just, can we do this? Yes, we can. Why haven't we thought of this before? And I think most of the male coaches are pretty on it. And it was a guy's idea that we started using navy shorts.
Brilliant.
Yeah. My husband is. Yeah, he has a lot to put up with because he's not only dealing with my periods, he's dealing with, I think he feels half the time Ireland's periods sometimes. But I think we kind of forget, men are brothers, they're partners, they're husbands, they're dads. So I think we need to give them a bit more credit. Someone else I've spoken to a lot on this topic is the TD Chris Andrews. He's sports can't even say it, a sports spokesman, and I think people are keen to just normalise it. And I think men, I actually find men are pretty good. I get like a lot of,
I would find them receptive to hearing about it and understanding, and then we would get a lot into the science and kind of talking about that a bit. The impact that your menstrual cycle can have on training and that. But I think obviously there's lots of times there can be jokes and stuff around periods, but I think when you actually sit down and talk to whether it's teenagers or young men or whatever, anyone, that they can actually be open to having a conversation. They're like, oh, well, I just never experienced it myself, but it's cool that I'm learning a bit about it.
There is always the oh, you must have your period if you're in a bad mood and all that kind of thing, but again that's, look, it's just one of those things, isn't it? But I think, if you are in a supermarket, you will see the dads picking up the pads for their daughters or their wives or whatever. And I do think we need to give them a little bit more credit.
Thanks a million for taking the time to chat to us. I think it'd be really informative for people, and obviously we want them to check out what you're doing. So definitely check out Homeless Period Ireland on Instagram and on Twitter to find out more about what Claire is doing.
Thanks, Niamh.